All right, good evening, good afternoon, everyone who's able to join us at Western Washington University's Resident Director Job Info webinar. A couple of reminders before we begin. This webinar will be recorded. We do ask attendees just turn off your mics and your cameras. I think that's already a set default. I just wanted to let you know that we are now recording so that we're able to share this with folks who aren't able to join us this evening by putting it on our recruitment webinar. Just a reminder that you can start adding your questions in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer questions within the chat, as well as our panelists will be answering in the later portion of our webinar. And we definitely want to hear from you. We want you to let us know where you're zooming in from. We know folks are coming in from different parts of the country or perhaps outside of the country. Please complete a quick attendance sheet and survey at www.tinyurl.com/WWURD webinar. And we'll send a friendly reminder at the end as well. To kick us off, I just want to say thank you for everyone who's joining us today for our information webinar, and hello to any of our future viewers who are viewing us in the future on our recording from our recruitment website. Just a quick introduction on who I am. My name is Christian Urcia, and I'll be today's host and moderator. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm one of the 3 assistant directors in the Residence Life office at Western. A little bit about myself. I'm originally from Southern California, and I was first introduced to Western in summer 2013, so almost 8 years ago when I did my Akuai graduate internship here. 1 year later, I applied for the resident director job towards the end of my graduate program, and have had the privilege to continue working at Western through different positions in residence life. A little bit about our format. We'll spend the next hour with doing some introductions. We have our director of our department as well as our associate director of residence life here as well. We'll share some information about our department, our institution, as well as the area. And then a majority of the time will be spent for you all asking questions of our current resident director staff. So first, I'd like to introduce our director, Leonard Jones. He's our director of university residences.
Good evening, everyone, and very, very, very happy to be with you tonight. A little bit about myself. It's my 8th year at Western, and hopefully Western is the last school that I work for, because prior to Western, I worked at 7 different colleges and universities around the country. I've worked in the South, I've worked in the Midwest, on the East Coast, some 8 years here, 10 years there, and whatnot, but been at Western since 2013, so almost 8 years now. One of the things as the director that I think is important for individuals thinking about Western as an opportunity of working with us in residence life is that I think we are a very caring campus. We're complex. Our housing system next fall will have a total bed capacity of about 4,300 students that live on campus. But professionally, I want to stay focused there that Western is a place that I, as a director, am very invested in the professional development and success of students, of staff that are coming to work for us here. Technology is a wonderful thing. So if you get on Google and you Google Bellingham, you see we're in the far upper western corner of the United States, lower 48. But some things that you may not know about if you don't Google us is Vicki and myself, who will speak right after this, we're concerned about the quality of life of our staff. I don't think of us as a meal in any way. But we want our resident director staff to live a balanced existence here, knowing when to take time off. And you can expect supervisors to kind of kick you out of the office sometimes if that's what's needed. Um, we are we are an institution as well as a department that is very committed to DEI efforts, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We try to operationalize that, try not to just talk about it from a theoretical perspective, but we're right in the ground. We're having conversations with our students about what's happening in society and their role in terms of how they can be leaders in that conversation. And we are a challenging, complex, nuanced institution. And I say all these things because we're looking for people that can support our mission, our clear values, strategic values that our institution have, um, and also develop you, invest in you as a professional. So I'm so thankful to be a part of this effort tonight. I'm going to turn my camera off after this, but I'm going to kind of listen as well. So if there are questions of our staff, they will answer those. But there might be a few questions that you might have of the director of the department for which you may be seeking the opportunity to work. I'm here for your success as well, and I'll be around to answer any of those questions. So please do not hesitate to direct them my way if I can be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leonard. Up next, we have our Associate Director of Residence Life, Vicki Vanderwerf.
Hello and welcome. Vicki Vanderwerf, she, her pronouns. A little bit about me. I am from Buffalo, New York, so off on the East Coast, and moved west about 11 years ago to Colorado. I spent the last 3 years here at Western. Great place to be. It's actually a really exciting time to be at Western, specifically in housing. We have a brand new residence hall opening up. I know a lot of you are asking questions in the chat already about that. We also are starting Black affinity housing that will be opening up in the fall. A lot of staff on this call, on this webinar, have contributed ideas and strategies for that. We're talking a lot about pride housing for GLBTQ plus students and allies, and thinking about how to develop those programs. So there's a lot happening here. We're always reimagining, redeveloping, and creating strategies to support our students through our residential curriculum. We operate through a curricular model. It's called URISE, University Residences Initiative for Student Engagement. It's about 2 years old, but another place to really be innovative and impact students. So I encourage you to ask questions. All of our staff are involved in that initiative as well. We are so excited to be here. We have not added to our team in the last year due to the pandemic. But excited to have some new faces on our team. We have a strong, very strong professional staff team with our resident directors, our administrative support staff, our assistant directors, highly competent, amazing individuals. So excited that you all are interested in possibly joining that team and learning a little bit more about us. We really value connection, relationships, transparency, some of what Leonard has already mentioned. Professional development, I'll echo that as well. We really want you to be successful in your position, whether you're coming from graduate school and learning some of those skills for the first time or developing those skills, or if you've been a resident director elsewhere, you have housing experience and you're coming in and looking to refine those skills. We're always looking for opportunities for our staff to make sure they're performing well in their positions and are also being prepared for their next step in their career. So that's also really important to us. Leonard mentioned this as well, but diversity, equity, inclusion is a core value here And it's not something, we really make it a goal to not be something that we just talk about, but that we do operationalize, like Leonard said. We've talked a lot about race this year in our residence life department, specifically our residence life unit, and really focused on some of the racial injustice and heightened awareness around racial violence, or especially over the last year. We're really looking for candidates who can engage in that dialogue and who are really committed to eradicating racism, bringing those conversations to their staff, and also committed to developing strategies and actions for us to really work towards those equity inclusion goals. So overall, just really excited you're here. I'm interested in engaging with you all further through our interview process, through the webinar today, and any questions that you have in the future. So thank you so much for attending.
Thank you so much, Vicki and Leonard. Just a couple of quick announcements about who we are, and just a little bit of the work that we get to do before we send it off to our resident directors so they can answer some of your questions. Really quickly, Western Washington University is a public state institution, predominantly white institution. We're a large school, about 15,000 students are enrolled every year. And Bellingham is about 90,000 citizens. I like to say that sometimes it has a small town feel, but with big amenities, like we are a city that has Target, that has Home Depot, that has the stores that you would typically see in a big city. What I really appreciated about Bellingham is how close it is to Seattle. So we're 90 miles north of Seattle. We're also 25 miles below the Canadian border, and it's only 50 miles to get to Vancouver, British Columbia. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to move to other locales and visit. Our department is one of the larger employers at the university for both full-time staff as well as students. In a traditional year, we hire 11 live-in professionals, anywhere from our 3 supervising resident directors, our 5 resident directors, and our 3 assistant resident directors. So our 3 supervising resident directors co-lead and co-supervise with their 3 assistant resident directors to oversee buildings and the staffs. Right now, we're currently searching for 2 resident directors. The salary is marked at $47,700, and we anticipate this position would start the first week of August. And something new that is took effect, and we're only about a month in, is effective January 2021. In compliance with the labor and industries laws of Washington State, we've elected to have RDs work in an hourly capacity, but are now overtime eligible. So we're working pretty closely with our resident director staff on work-life balance, and as Leonard said, what it means to turn off work and actually step away and restart the day the next day. So all a learning opportunity, but I can see some good things already happening as we speak. Some things that Vicki already mentioned about our department is that we have been operating in a residential curriculum, in fact, for over 12 years. URISE is our newest iteration of that in the past 2 years. But operating a curriculum model was one thing that definitely attracted me to Western back in the day. We are opening a brand new residential community, Alma Clark Glass Hall, and on the slide is some concept art. Dong and I just picked some RA rooms for next year, which is exciting step in the future. And Alma Clark is named after our first Black student at Western Washington University. And so it's only fitting that we start a new living learning community, our new Black affinity housing in Alma Clark Glass Hall. So that's some of our new things that are coming up soon. So the exciting part is for you all to meet our panelists. So we'll go ahead and kick it off to Jordan, and then I don't know why my presentation is moving. But Jordan, do you want to go in and get started?
Yes, yeah. Howdy, folks. Hi, my name's Jordan Allen. I am the resident director of Nash Hall, Edens Hall, and Edens North. My pronouns are he, him, his. Previously, I did my grad work and I worked as a graduate resident director at Kutztown University of Pennsylvania. And my favorite thing to do in Bellingham prior to the pandemic was to go and check out a bunch of the restaurants in town. There's a lot to do and see in Bellingham, so it's a great place to really just explore. And I think that matches the passion of our students as well in that regard.
All right, my name is Aaliyah Tursanova. I am on North Campus. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I oversee Mathis Hall and Higginson Hall. My previous institution, I was at the University of Nevada, Reno, finishing up my graduate work, and now I'm here full time. And one of my favorite things to do, I think before the pandemic, was definitely going to the movies and spending my money on overpriced snacks. But since the pandemic, I'm kind of doing what Jordan's doing and trying new coffee places. There's tons of coffee shops in town and restaurants, but doing more of the to-go options.
Hello, my name is Alice Whitmer. I use she, her pronouns, and I currently oversee Burnham Wood as the apartment community director. And last year I oversaw SODA up on the ridge. My previous institution was the University of Pennsylvania, relocated here from the East Coast. And my favorite thing to do in Bellingham that we can still do is go to Boulevard Park. It's really nice. You can read, people watch, dog watch, all with a great view of the bay.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dong Vo. I'm a supervising resident director. My current building is Ridgeway Beta, Gamma, and Kappa. I am a graduate of Western. As an undergrad, I received my bachelor's degree at Western Washington University and my graduate degree at Oregon State University. My favorite thing to do in Bellingham, I love to eat out and go out for brunch and explore, but I also do sailing and fishing when the weather is warm.
All right, thank you, Resident Director panelists. And we're gonna go ahead and get started. I think we see some questions in the queue. So this first one goes to, real quick. Aaliyah, I'm very interested to hear more about your curricular approach in Res Life. What are its influences and how do you implement it through the residence halls?
Yeah, so like Vicki mentioned, we use our URISE model that was based on Tara Yoso's research. And so 3 things that we really focus on is career preparedness, inclusive community building, and personal wellness. And so we have different goals for all different categories, but to save some time, different ways that we implement it is through programming, intentional conversations, through our conduct process, through staff meetings, through professional staff meetings. And so we really focus on our one-on-one interactions with students really consists of us using our model, and talking about student strengths. So we really want to emphasize the different strengths and capitals that students bring to campus that they may not think about in a typical day. So we really try to emphasize on that through our intentional conversations and really get to know more about residents in a deeper sense. And then through our programming as well, making sure that we're incorporating it, looking at ways that we're accessible and inclusive with our programming, whether it's creation of flyers or food allergies, or physical accessibility as much as we can. And what else? Also through our conduct process, we work together as a team and individually just to make sure, we're looking at it in a lens of education and us connecting with residents and figuring out, what really led to this conduct violation and how can we help residents.
All right, thank you, Aaliyah. The next question is for Jordan. Does the new hourly model affect full-time benefits?
No, it doesn't. So yeah, our benefits remain completely the same in that regard. Our pay has pretty much been calculated out. We are good to go in all of the regards there. I'd say that shifting to an hourly model, while in a lot of ways is stigmatized within our profession, I think it's actually been really beneficial in terms of focusing our productivity on a week-to-week basis, as well as just managing our time and balancing our lives better. In residence life, it's not uncommon for somebody to, work like 60, 70 hours on one week. And so having the 40-hour cap on our weeks does a lot for keeping us on track and keeping us healthy and happy.
Thank you, Jordan. Just a quick reminder or announcement from our behind the scenes team who are working on the chat. It's actually helpful if you change your chat settings to panelists and attendees so that attendees can also see some of the questions and answers that are being contributed to the part of the conversation. So keep it in the chat. We're happy to do that, but it's helpful if you do panelists and attendees. Thank you. So the next question goes to Dong. How would you say the relationship between housing and student affairs with academic, how would you say the relationship between housing and student affairs is with academic affairs?
Great question. I think we have a really good relationship and opportunity. I think one thing to keep in mind is the culture of our campus is one that can be casual too, where you yourself as a resident director are welcome to go get lunch, get coffee, walk to a faculty member's office, and you have some of that autonomy there to partner, collaborate, and work and try new things with faculty. So you'll see that this campus really encourages that. And so some of that is definitely in your control as well. You'll see that several of us in housing and our resident directors are involved in organizations on campus that are also involving faculty and our professional staff organization as well. And so there is a lot of opportunity there. There's certainly different divisions and organizations that you can engage in, but oftentimes we will partner with faculty on things and consult with them, such as our URISE curriculum.
Thank you, Dong. The next question goes to Alice. Could you touch on the support you've received with the institution with respects to the current pandemic? What kind of support is there for full-time staff when the impact of the pandemic feels too much?
Sure. So I'll kind of divide this into what Western has done for us versus what our own individual department does for us every day. So Western, I think, has been really great at, since the start, being really clear on communication, even when a lot of things were changing. We got a lot of updates. And I feel like they were as transparent as possible throughout the whole process. Additionally, many of us are working from home right now. There was also resources available to make your space something that you can work in, to make it comfortable while still being really productive. Now, in our department, all those things still apply for sure. But I think something that our department does really well from the start, I can speak about Vicky and Leonard and our assistant directors who supervise us. We are always encouraged to talk about when we feel like we have too much on our plate. We are encouraged to talk about mental health days. Do we just need a break? What time do we have to use? Can we use some flex time? And I think the conversation has been, it's just ongoing. You know, it's not like there was never a point where we're like, okay, it's been like 6 months, we can stop acting like this is hard. Like, we still acknowledge that there are days, especially as we come up to our 1-year COVID-versary with all of this going on, you know, it's still heavy on our minds. And we're really encouraged to talk about it. And I don't think that's something that in my personal experience, I haven't always felt like I was able to do that with leadership. And I think that's something that's really unique here.
Thank you so much, Alice. This next question goes to Jordan. Can you please tell us a little bit more about themed housing at Western? What are some goals, initiatives, and what does student participation look like here?
Sure. So our themed housing, our two largest projects, I would say, are Pride Housing, which we've had in some form for the last decade or so. It originally started as gender inclusive housing and has since worked its way towards a themed community for LGBTQ plus identified students and allies. And then again, starting next year and going to be in our brand new residence hall is the Black Affinity Housing. So both of those have been projects that we've put a lot of hours into, whether it's having advisory board meetings, which include students, staff, faculty. We're reaching out to every facet of the institution that we can in our advisory board meetings. And then also just benchmarking and making sure that we are doing the right things and really trying to work towards something that's going to make a difference here. For the most part, our themed housing programs are aimed at providing a space that is both physically, psychologically, and emotionally safe for the students involved. And really just we're focused on bringing in voices from other parts of campus to make it great. So we collaborate with the director of LGBTQ plus Western. We're collaborating with our Ethnic Student Center and Multicultural Center. And we're just really trying to make something good here. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jordan. Next question goes to Dong. How do you conduct your conduct process and what does that look like in practice?
Those of you who do have some conduct experience, I think there is the typical build rapport, get to understand their narrative, their story, their experiences, unpacking what occurred. And that piece of the conduct piece, we do focus a lot on the educational component of conduct. And so we believe that sanctioning is a part of the educational process. It is part of their growth. Such a unique, it's being an RD is such a unique experience in that you are part of their community. You are part of their experience. You are more so than any other resource on campus. For example, academic advising, where they might meet periodically, you are part of their experience. You are part of their life. You put on programs. You are there to see them at home, at their best, their worst, where they meet their best friends. And so that conduct process is intended to be holistic. Get to know them over time. Get to know what is it they're seeking as a part of their experience and what type of sanctioning fits into there. And certainly through that, I built some great relationships. You try to assess what's the most appropriate sanction for them. I think we are intentional about connecting our conduct process to our URISE curriculum. That is something that we do try to tie into all aspects of our work. And so we try to measure outcomes of what RDs are doing. But we also work closely with our Office of Student Life, which is also HERE's campus conduct. And they also have outcomes that are linked and connected to our URISE outcomes. So through our conduct process, we're also assessing multiple outcomes from different units as well on campus. But it is intended, in short, to be a very educational process and for you to connect and to learn with the students that you're meeting with.
Thank you, Dong. Next question is for Alice. Someone I presume to be on the East Coast said it's refreshing to see so much of the team have worked on the East Coast before. What was the biggest proponent for the change to move to the West Coast?
Yeah, so there's a couple of us, from the East Coast. Some smaller reasons, even though we did get some snow over the weekend, we are not getting nearly as much as they are in PA, for example. Jordan and I are both from PA and we're just hearing horror stories from that, and that's not us. So that's been great. Some other things, I specifically am from Philadelphia and I absolutely love it. I miss the big city. However, what attracted me to Western and Washington State as a whole is the pace of living. The pace of life is a lot slower. People aren't as rushed a lot of the times. You don't feel, it's a lot slower. It's a lot calmer out here. The area is beautiful. It's really calming. Even when we have really bad days or, really tough situations, it's like the scenery is just really calming and relaxing. And also the climate is pretty temperate. It doesn't get as hot as it does on the East and humid as it does on the East Coast too.
Thank you, Alice. Next question is for Jordan. What does the on-call rotation look like at Western?
Sure. So we have 2 levels of professional staff on call. So at the RD level, we're on a weekly basis. And this is all subject to review as we continue to navigate the change to hourly. But we're currently on a weekly basis. So we serve from Tuesday to Tuesday. And we only are on, I want to say, maybe 6 or so weeks out of the entire year. That doesn't sound right. That math doesn't work out. But it's a pretty reasonable time. And again, with everything that we do here, we're always trying to strike that balance. So if we're on call, we're not necessarily going to be going as hard during the week because we need to account for that time in our 40. So everything we do here has a balance, and the on-call rotation it's pretty nice. Yeah.
Thank you, Jordan. Next question is for Aaliyah. Can you speak about your most challenging experience at Western and how were you supported by the team?
Yeah, so my experience is a little unique of my peers. So I got here last January, about 2 months prior to the pandemic. So I was a mid-year hire, getting to learn the department. And then 2 months later, this global pandemic hit. So I just got a really lucky experience. But I think, and I think if anybody else has anything to chime in after me, feel free. But I think for me, the most challenging has been COVID, because I was a mid-year hire and I'm jumping in. I'm trying to learn, the works of the department and the university, and then the pandemic hits. So a lot of things are changing, and luckily everybody's it's changing for everyone here, right? So even individuals who work with the department for way longer than I have, we're all going through the same thing. And to follow up with the second part, I think it was, how has the team supported me, right? Yeah.
That's correct, Aaliyah.
Okay. And I think there's just a lot of support from each other and from our supervisors and from the leadership team. So the department is very open to hearing feedback and how things are going. If we are feeling unsafe, doing tasks or whatever, we work as a team to figure out different strategies and navigating every single situation that comes up. I also think with the pandemic, like Alice mentioned earlier, I think there's just been a lot of transparency on what we know and what we don't know. And we get frequent updates from I think it's the incident command system. So it's basically, a leadership meeting where they talk about kind of what's going on. So we get email updates about that. So everybody's kind of on the same page and we know as much as we know. So, yeah.
Thank you, Aaliyah. Next question is for Dong. How does the department support its first generation professionals?
Yeah, please let us know if I don't answer it fully, but I consider myself a first generation professional. I am first in my family to go to college and work and whatnot. And this is one of my first professional roles as well. And so I think one thing to keep in mind is you'd be joining a team that you have leadership that really tries to listen to you. I know a lot of places do one-on-ones and whatnot, but there is something to also be said, whether you have a supervisor that listens to you and hears your experience and hears why you might be having that type of experience. And that goes a long way when this is your first experience as a professional or first generation as well, navigating what it means to be a professional. There are a lot of things to pick up on that training doesn't, like how to engage with peers looks different for different people, how to collaborate and build something from scratch how to take a project and run with it or facilitate a committee meeting. Those are all skills that we gain over time. How we gain those things is vastly different for everybody. So you have a group of supervisors and teammates who will also support you along that journey, because we've been there in different capacities. I think you also have a lot of organizations on campus. HR also has a lot of classes and things that help you develop as a professional as well. Specifically in Res Life, we've spent a lot of time. We have a professional development committee that has worked to tie in what development looks like for a first year, second year, third year, fourth year professional staff, and tying that to ACUHO-I standards as well, so other professional organizations in our field. So broadly speaking, it's okay to make a couple mistakes. It's okay to learn and grow along the way. And we know that that will continue, and we want to provide those learning moments for your entire career here. You shouldn't stop learning and growing. And so it's all about kind of what is your next career move and what skills you need to gain to access your next job or whatnot.
Thank you, Dong. Next question is for Alice. What does a typical day in the RD role look like?
Sure. So an average day, we are having student meetings this year, similar to our resident advisors and our apartment advisors. We're also trying to have intentional conversations with our residents to check in to see how they're doing. On any given day, I'll have work for any committee I'm on, as well as NRHH. I co-advise with Christian. So what are we planning for that? Having student leadership meetings, one-on-ones with my staff, which are just such a great experience to be able to collaborate and just help professionally develop them and just see the incredible work that they're doing with their residents each day. And then also COVID has kind of made this one element easier of like, there's a lot of collaboration in our department. So most days I will be talking to many of my peers, asking them questions, sounding boards, things like that. And it's a lot easier to do that virtually. But we also follow up on our conduct cases, care follow-up. We also have capacity a lot of times to figure out any special projects we want to work on for our communities or for the department as a whole.
Thank you, Alice. Next question is for Jordan. Someone said, I'm interested in knowing what the biggest adjustment was that you had in adjusting to your position at Western.
Sure. So I think this is going to be something that is found everywhere. So coming into the RD role, we're all master's level professionals. We've all had some previous experiences working usually within the framework of student affairs and likely residence life. So I'd say what the biggest adjustment for myself, and would likely be, anywhere, is that I had to learn the specific ways that Western operates. Policies are going to look different, procedures are going to look different. Learning how we navigate, but but learning how we navigate the conduct system here, what sort of sanctions do we give out for different things? It's just building upon the knowledge that you already have. And that's the biggest adjustment. And the more that you're able to structure that and frame that and continue to build up your own professional foundations, the further you're going to go in student affairs.
Thank you, Jordan. Next question is for Dong. Could you tell us a little bit about your students as well as unique challenges you encounter in engaging them?
Sure. I'm going to try to speak broadly pre and during the pandemic here. But our students, Christian had mentioned, we are a predominantly white institution, mid-size, getting larger, liberal arts kind of institution we are. Our students are really focused on the environment and sustainability and local practices as well. And you'll see that in the community. A lot of our students choose Western for those values. that we are known for our environmental science, business, and teaching programs as well. So we have a teaching program called Wood Ring, and we are predominantly undergraduate students. And so we really focus on that undergraduate experience. And so our students come here to do a lot of exploration as to who they are. So you won't see those big sports like football at our institution, which is great. That is the work that I'm passionate into, and I get it's a type of student that I really enjoy working with, who are here really for their academics and figuring out what they want to, who they are and what they want to do. Some of the challenges of engaging students, I think some of them you're going to see at any institution, like what types of programs to tailor to which population and which students. I think some of the challenges right now in the pandemic, as most people navigate, is like, how do you translate some of the community development to a virtual environment? But certainly, the other thing that comes to mind is our curriculum is also so involved in a way where we do a lot of one-on-one outreach to get to know our residents. So the more you get to know them, the more unique their challenges will be, because each individual is unique. And so that's probably what I would say, is that we do spend a lot of time getting to know our students one-on-one. And especially during this pandemic, our resident advisors, including our resident directors, do one-on-ones with students. So we get to know our residents. We're talking to them. We're having virtual meetings with them. We're calling them. So it's not just conduct. It's not just care meetings. It's not just programs. We're taking the time to get to know them so that we know better what their experience is like here.
Thank you, Dong. Next question is for Aaliyah. There's a multi question in this one, but I think this is your expertise. So what role do RDs have in developing programs for our URISE curriculum? Is it more of a Res Life wide initiative, or do RDs drive the programming in their respective areas? And what role do students or residents play in URISE?
Yeah, so I'll try to answer this in different parts and quickly. So most of our programming is done through our resident assistants and apartment assistants, or RAs and our AAs. So most of the student staff does the programming following the curricular approach, following the lesson plans for like floor gatherings and floor meetings at the start and end of each quarter. Oh, okay. And the RDs are more than welcome to program using the curricular approach. You certainly can for each community, but it is the student staff. And then, oh, there we go. And then it is a Res Life wide initiative as well. So our whole department is, using their URISE curricular model, and we're hoping that it will be a university-wide initiative at some point. So that is the long-term goal. And so also our URISE team, our URISE committee plans programming for all of the residence halls on campus too. So there's a lot of programming going on, both that's hosted through the URISE committee, open to all of campus, and then RDs work with their staff to do individual programming within their own communities. That's mostly led by student staff, but is definitely open for RDs to program if they want to take that opportunity.
Thank you, Aaliyah. Next question is for Alice. What are your favorite parts of this job?
Good question. So I think I can narrow it down to 3 things. First, our student staff, they're incredible. They're funny, they're engaged, they're brilliant. While Res Life is kind of an all-in job, as we talked about, we live here, we work here. It can feel like we have even when you have a really long but productive day, something your student staff will text you or ask you or do it just makes it all worth it to you. It's just like a funny moment. And just seeing their growth too, as we get to supervise them. The second thing, I know this is corny, but I love this team. I love our collaboration. I love the fun that we have. And I think that is something that there's a foundation for that even as people come and go, I think those are still things that can grow as we gain new staff members. And the third thing is I've never worked in a place with such intentionality in everything that we do, especially in our department. We're always revisiting policies. We're thinking about who's not at this table? What can we do? What have we been doing for years that we can maybe put aside and redo, kind of reinvigorate? So yeah, those are my top 3 things.
Thank you, Alice. Next question is for Jordan. What is your favorite campus tradition?
Sure. So I'm going to preface this with most campus traditions, the biggest ones happen in spring quarter, and that didn't happen last year. So there are 2 that come to mind from fall quarter that I really love. One was from my own community, and one is one that just happens on campus and everybody's like kind of invited and involved. So during new student convocation, at the end of it, we do this human corridor. All of the RAs, anybody that's pretty much anyone that's on campus at that point, RAs, RDs, staff, faculty, we all line up outside of our Performing Arts Center to welcome the new students to campus as they're leaving orientation. Convocation rather, and I think it's just a lovely way to cheer on the residents and just new students in general. And I got a nice poster that I framed in my office from it. And then one specifically from my community in Nash Hall is that we traditionally do a Thanksgiving event called Nash Giving. And it's just a big potluck that we also then ordered pizza for because we needed more food. But it's just a huge opportunity to get the students to be involved in one another's cultures and lives. And we invited our AUAP program students to join us in that. And so there were some dishes, culturally from Japan in that event as well. And it was just wonderful. Almost, I'd say half of Nash showed up. Almost 200 students showed up to the program, which is why I had to order pizza. And it was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Jordan. Our next question goes to Dong. Residential curriculum and faculty collaboration is a big draw for me. What % of the job would you say involves those things? Is it a minor or major part of the job?
Yeah, thank you. It is a big draw for me as well. And it's been a big draw for Western employees and Res Life because we've been doing curricular approaches for over a decade now. I would say what % of the job is a residential curriculum involved? It should be 100%. Everything in our outcomes and our work should tie back to the residential curriculum. I'll put an asterisk there, just like student development theory, like we want to use student development theory and understand that our work connects to this and we want to be intentional about it. But sometimes in your day-to-day work, is responding to an email part of the residential curriculum. I think you can draw the connections, but we do really intentionally connect our residential curriculum to the committee work, to the outcomes, to our conduct, to practices. The thing to keep in mind is our new curricular URISE is about 2 years old. So year 1 was kind of unveiling it and trying it out and seeing where do we need to improve. Year 2, we made some of those improvements and we continue to expand, set goals on where we want to expand residential curriculum. And so we, this last year, have asked committees to submit proposals on what is the outcome of the committee? How does that connect to residential curriculum? RAs, you're doing programming. How do those connect to the residential curriculum? So we continue to expand, try new things, and that's part of the curricular approach is trying to assess, try new things, and try to figure out what works, what doesn't work. In your role, I think there's a lot of autonomy because all of that connects to everything you do. And so there's a lot of autonomy as well for you to implement how URISE looks like in your hall, in your community, with your staff. And then that goes the same with the faculty collaboration. I think you're afforded the opportunity to really reach out, and several RDs do reach out to campus partners whether it's faculty or other staff campus resources to put on programs and sustain some of those relationships. I know we have a lot of themed communities that do have a lot of collaboration with faculty members. We have Pride Housing, we have Honors Community that really work closely there. Those halls that don't have some of those more specific themed communities, it is encouraged that you work with your supervisor and build some of those relationships and programs and try things as a resident director for your students, since every community, every staff, every year might look a little bit differently.
Thank you, Dong. Next question is for Aaliyah. How active are first year students with other parts of the Western community outside of their residence hall?
Yeah, I would say the students are very active. So we do not have Greek life on campus, and sports are a little me, to be honest. But we have a lot of clubs and organizations on campus that students take advantage of. And so a lot of the one-on-one conversations that I do have with residents this quarter is, some of them are taking advantage of the online clubs that are being offered, but a lot of them are also waiting until clubs are open. But the consistency that I see is that everybody that I've met with, or most of the students that I'm meeting with, have already looked at what is available at Western, what can I join, what can I get involved in, what is available right now, and what do I have to look forward to when everything kind of opens up to full or close to full capacity. I think residents are also very involved outside of the university. A lot of students are involved with organizations and things off campus. And so students are very passionate about sustainability. They're very passionate about, the nature that Washington has to offer, and like really being just out in the town and in the community and in Washington off campus. So I don't know if anybody else has anything to chime in on that one.
Thank you so much, Aaliyah. All right, next question goes to Alice. How do you engage different voices, either professional staff, student staff, people of color, other identities in decision-making in the department?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we do really well when making decisions for things is acknowledging who's not in the room and who is. This includes any BIPOC representation that we're lacking in our department, any different experiences. Do we have more first generation professionals sitting at this table versus people who are not first generation? We also reach out to peers while also being cognizant to not put more pressure or the onus of learning on our BIPOC peers and colleagues in the larger university. Another thing that we do that is just kind of built into our staff meetings this year that is small, but I think has a big impact, is that we have a current event article that we dedicate 20 to 25 minutes for every other week. And usually that is something that is impacting residents' life, but also from a different viewpoint than we might have. And we discuss that. And then with our student staff, I think, again, going back to URISE is one of the things is thinking about, for example, I'll speak of my staff. My staff are all white and white facing, whereas my community is one of the more diverse communities here. So we talk about that. We own that. We talk about how the barrier of trust in the beginning to our residents is there, and how do we address that? What do we do to provide support while also acknowledging that we might not be the people that people are looking for? We are not always going to be the person that someone needs, but how do we connect those experiences, those voices, those resources to our residents and our professional staff as well?
Thank you, Alice. So we're just wrapping up. I think we're a little bit close to the end of our webinar, and we do have some closing announcements. But I do want to get a question out there for all of our panelists, and maybe you can do a quick round robin on this question. Is what do you find is the most rewarding about being a resident director at Western? And they want to know, how's the weather, but maybe more so, how do you enjoy the weather out here in Washington? And we'll start with Jordan and then go through Aaliyah, Alice, and Dong.
Sure. So the most rewarding thing for me as an RD is to see the moment that a student starts taking ownership of their own life. Just that change, whether it was that they were following through with what, their parents wanted, or an idea that they had, when they didn't have a fully formed idea about what life beyond school looks like just that change. And when they start making decisions solely for like themselves and honing who they are, that's what really makes it for me. And I love to see that through uh okay, the screen just changed. And I love to see that through, the Residence Life program. As for the weather, I love the weather. It's very rainy here. It rains about 9 months out of the year pretty consistently, with a bright and sunny summer. So don't worry, there's always beauty here. And yeah, I love it. I love the rain.
All right, I'll go next. The most rewarding part for me is when residents are vulnerable and are not afraid to reach out, and building those connections to have residents feel comfortable enough to do so. And I also want to highlight just how great the team is, the live-in staff and the central housing staff. I'm a very extroverted person. I need connection and I need to be connected with the people that I work with, knowing that you won't get that all the time. But I really want to emphasize how great the team is to work here at Western. And as far as the weather, I'm a California girl. So some days the rain is really great. Some days I wish it was dry, but that's a biased opinion.
I think one of the things that I find most rewarding is our student staff and seeing their excitement when they're able to work through a problem or work through something that's brought up to them from their residents on their own. And then you kind of are able to see how far they've grown in such a short amount of time from fall to now, for example. And then, yes, it's raining now, but I'm with Jordan. I love the rain. That's why I moved here. But I only just got a raincoat a couple months ago, and I should have gotten it much earlier, because you're not really supposed to use umbrellas here apparently, which I think is stupid. So
very similar to everybody in their responses. You heard me say earlier, it's such a unique experience being a resident director. To be a part of their experience over 9 months and to see them in the dining hall and at programs and get to know them, it is a very different experience that other colleagues on campus don't have the opportunity regularly. And so for me, my peers have heard me say, it's a special thing to be a part of what they call home. You see them at their best, their worst, when they fall in love, when they have heartbreak, when they have conflict. You are a part of that experience. And some of my greatest relationships and with residents are through conduct. I get to know them. And then in spring quarter, you get to see their level of growth, like Jordan had said, and you get to laugh about it and learn and grow from it. And so that's such a unique and rewarding experience. The weather, I appreciate the seasons. There's the rainy season, there's spring, there's winter and snow, and then there's the really warm, hot summers. And but it's always mild and temperate, not too hot, not too cold, but there is a fair amount of rain. Yes.
All right, thank you so much, panelists. Really appreciate all of your answers. Just some closing announcements as we head off and sign off for the evening. So we do have an Instagram page, WW Housing at WWU Housing. Sorry, we say WW. It's just our lingo here, but that's what we mean is WWU Housing. Go ahead and follow us. Beginning on Monday, our very own Aaliyah will be doing Insta takeover for a couple of days, and to really show what is a week in the life of a resident director here through stories and posts. So definitely you can get a little bit more glimpse of what a week looks like next week. Applications are due by 11:55 p.m. on Friday, March 5th. Easiest place to go to is go to housing.wwu.edu/jobs, and then you'll see a little screen grab on the screen there. You want to click the Not a Student section, and it takes you directly to our professional staff recruitment page. And then just a friendly announcement regarding our applications is that because we have such a high regard on diversity, equity, and inclusion, we do require a separate inclusion statement as part of your application material. So in addition to your cover letter and resume and references, we do ask that you write a statement. There's a prompt in there in the application instructions of that page. We want to make sure that we can start screening your application, and we can't do that unless we have all your application materials. And then next week on Tuesday, February 23rd at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Western, we are collaborating with other state institutions in Washington State to host a first ever Work in Washington State event. So if you like us and you're really interested in moving to Washington State, but maybe perhaps Bellingham or Western isn't necessarily for you, or you want to just come to the state and you're like, yes, sign me up. I want to move to Washington from PA. There are other schools out here who are also looking. And so we're working to collaborate with each other. And really the whole goal of the event is to help you network with individuals and other institutions, but also to really help you find your own best fit. Like we said, we only have 2 positions currently right now, but we want to make sure that you're finding your best fit, whether that's with Western or another institution here. We'd love to have you, but there's different institutions in Washington State that can maybe help out with your professional needs and what you're looking for out here. So hopefully we'll see you on Tuesday. And again, we'd love to know where you're zooming in from and some quick feedback. It's probably a 5-minute quick survey. If you can go to www.tinyurl.com/WWRD-webinar, we'd love to hear back from you. Again, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and we hope to see your application soon.